All right, Katie Ball, thank you for joining me on the Forward in Faith podcast. This is the first episode.
Cool.
Just so you know, you're the very first guest.
I'm pretty honored. Was that like by choice, or did someone else
You were
cancel?
you were the only person available. So tell the people a little bit about yourself, your background. How did you come to be in this fine real leather couch seat this morning?
Do you want to start from like the very beginning?
Well, I mean, you don't have to start from birth, but maybe just tell us who you are, where you're from.
Okay.
Pretend we don't know you at all.
All right. So, my name's Katie Ball. I have a husband named AJ and a super cute daughter who's about to turn 1 named Isla.
Is that hard to believe?
Yeah. This year has gone by
And
so fast.
we're coming up on Isla's first birthday is coming up.
Mm-hmm.
Are you renting out Truist Park is what I heard.
Yeah, I would love to, right? No, I decided to reel it in. We're going to have it at the house.
Okay.
It's going to be candy themed. So
Right.
I'm really
But
excited.
it's like $30 cover to get in.
Right. Right. Yeah, I was actually thinking about maybe hiring like the local coffee shop to come make lattes for the adults.
That's right.
Just to have something for the adults.
A coffee truck.
I did think about that. I thought about the Waffle House food truck for food, but
Well, you had that at your wedding.
I did. So I was trying to bring it back.
And wasn't that, I feel like the Waffle House food truck has not been around that long.
No, it's it's definitely a newer.
I mean, you weren't like the first wedding that they came to. Like,
No, I don't think so. But it was definitely something that people hadn't seen before. So
Yeah.
that was cool. When it pulled up, people got pretty excited.
Yeah. Anyway, so tell us about your background. Where'd you grow up?
Yeah, so I grew up right here in Woodstock, or I guess this is Marietta.
Well, we're not in Woodstock.
I grew up down the road in Woodstock my whole life. I went to Kennesaw State and I majored in information security and assurance, got my bachelor's there. And then I went back, I guess 2 years ago, and got my master's in cybersecurity. And I work at Home Depot as a cybersecurity analyst.
Yeah.
I like to call it the job that pays my bills.
Yeah.
But I guess it was a few years ago, I got approached to be, youth leader, youth director at Legacy. And I remember thinking, holy crap, like, are you sure? Like, like my background, I was in and out of church, like my whole life, basically, up until this point. But no, it's been great. And I can see just like the foundation God was laying this whole time, like literally since I was born. So
Yeah.
very cool.
Yeah. And you've been working with students, and you recently started a Bible study for a youth volleyball team that approached you. So tell us about that.
Yeah. So one of the players on the team, texted me one day and they said, hey, like, we're thinking about doing a small group for the volleyball team before practice. We wanted to use our parents at first, but then the more we thought about it, we don't want them knowing about what we're struggling with and all this stuff. And I thought about reaching out to you. So she asked me if I would do it, and we've been doing it, I think like 6 or 7 months now. And it's been great. I've had the opportunity to talk to students who don't know Jesus. Some of them do, some of them don't. And then some, would characterize themselves as atheist/agnostic. So it's just been a really cool door that God's opened. But kind of a heavy responsibility too. It's hard to talk to someone who it doesn't know Jesus and maybe isn't super interested in knowing Jesus. It's hard to speak confidently in those conversations because you want to be relatable. You don't want them to think that you're judging them or coming off too religious, right?
Yeah.
So that's been a challenge, but it's just been something I've been praying on, and I've formed relationships with these kids, so it's been really great.
So on that topic, and we've got some other things to get to, but while you're talking about this, Gen Z, ages 12 to 24, I think, technically, Are you Gen? No, you're not Gen Z.
I think I'm like last year millennial.
You're the last of the Mohicans,
Yeah.
the millennials. Some would call me an old millennial.
Yeah.
I'm on the edge of millennials and Gen X. I was born in.
I didn't know if you were a boomer.
I,
I didn't know if it was boomer
You thought
then
I was-
millennial.
you thought I was the boomer generation?
Well, like if you were about to say I'm on the line,
that
it
would
was
be
like
born in like up until 1970. When's the boomer cutoff? I don't know. Producers not.
what year were you born?
81.
And the boomer goes up to 70 something?
No.
That wasn't totally
Gen
off.
X.
Oh,
goes
Gen
up-
X.
Gen X goes up to about 1980.
Oh, okay. So
Then millennial.
I didn't know there was Gen X. I thought it was boomer millennial.
No. 1960. You're skipping a whole
1964.
1964
Okay.
to about 1980.
Okay.
You're skipping a whole generation.
Oh, my apologies.
Wow. So I'm an old millennial.
Okay.
You know, I did not grow up with a cell phone or
Yeah.
social media.
That's honestly such a blessing. though.
Facebook, it is.
Like,
Facebook came out in 2004. I was already out of college.
oh wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I guess I was 8 when Facebook came out, but I wasn't allowed to get an
So
account till I
weird.
was
I feel
12.
old. Okay, sharing with Gen Z. So here's the thing. I'm excited about Gen Z.
Yeah.
Like, you know, some people are like, oh, Gen Z, you know, they're leaving the church or they're growing up without faith or whatever. I say no, Gen Z is actually leading the church. You know, and they have an interesting makeup in terms of they really want their friends to know Jesus. At the same time, they sort of repel against, for a lot of good reasons, I would say, you know, previous methods of evangelism. Like they want their friends to know Jesus, but they say, hey, the way we've been sharing Jesus or doing evangelism has been wrong. So have you, like, in your conversations with students about Jesus, like, what are you seeing? Like, what are you taking away in terms of their, you know, their spiritual, I guess, curiosity?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I've actually, you know, speaking on you saying like you feel like Gen Z is going to be leading the church. I mean, it was the students that approached me for this Bible study, right? Like it wasn't me. It wasn't the other way around. So I would
you were
agree.
just sitting around.
Exactly. I was just sitting like on my couch.
Yeah. Maybe like this one.
Yeah. Yeah, well, you know what? Actually, I've had several conversations with them wanting to know how to approach other people about Jesus. Like, well, you know, Katie, what do I say to my friends? Like, if they retort against me, like with something, is that a word, retort?
I don't think so.
I feel like retort's a word. It's like retort, like when you,
Retort.
it's like if you were to say something and I retort it.
Like you're responding to it?
Yeah, but like maybe not in a great way. It's like more of like a
Rejecting?
rejection way. Yeah. You know, they want to know how they can evangelize and how they do that. And I mean, that's really encouraging to hear,
Yeah.
especially when, you know, maybe, you know, the people coming to church is on the decline. So to hear that our students are wanting to evangelize outside of the church.
I think we're seeing
encouraging.
seeds of revival.
Yeah.
With, I mean, if you think back last summer or last year with the Asbury revival, you know, I've seen a couple of stories recently where hundreds of students have been baptized on a college campus. I mean,
I love that.
I think there's seeds of revival.
Yeah, I think people are wanting to come back to the church. It's just not the church that maybe our society has, you know, like outlined.
Yeah.
You know, it's just a different way to church, if you want to say that.
Yeah.
But people want to know about Jesus. And my biggest, takeaway for students is it's relationship. Like, if you want someone to know Jesus, be their friend first.
Yep.
You're not going to sway them by approaching someone that you're not really, friends with and saying, do you know our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ? People are typically not going to
Is that
respond
your
well.
older lady voice?
Yeah, maybe.
Evangelistic voice?
Yeah. It just, I think we're discovering a new way to tell people about Jesus. And I think it's just going back to the roots of how Jesus did it. He had relationships with people.
Yeah.
And I've told my students too, you may plant the seed and you may have the opportunity to like water it, but you may not see the fruit of that, like your endeavor. And that's okay. Your job isn't to, see the fruit. It's just to plant those seeds and to just pour into people when you can.
That's what we tell adults too about evangelism, that, the goal is not to convert them.
Right.
The goal is the relationship itself.
100%.
And if you are living like Jesus in front of them and they see that, that's the Holy Spirit takes care of that.
100%. It's not us that's going to convert anybody. If anyone converts, it's because of the Holy Spirit and God. But you can have a big part of that by being their friend and exposing them to these things that can help,
So this is called the Forward in Faith podcast.
Yeah.
And for those watching or listening, they're like, what is Forward in Faith? Forward in Faith is a 2-year initiative that our church, Legacy Church, has just launched. We're right in the middle of that launch phase. And this is an initiative to accomplish our mission in even bigger ways, and also to make more of an impact, not only in this community, but in faraway places. But that Forward in Faith, it comes from a verse in the book of Joshua in the Old Testament, Joshua 3:5, where it says, tomorrow the Lord will do amazing things. And the context there is God's people are about ready to cross the Jordan into the promised land. And God tells them to consecrate themselves, which is just a fancy word for like, ready yourselves before the Lord. Prepare yourselves before God. Get with God, spend time with God, because tomorrow God's going to do amazing things. And Forward in Faith is really, it's 2 parts. It's forward because it's life with God always involves moving forward. Like, we cannot stay where we are and expect to grow. Faith is required, because if we are going to move forward with God, it does require faith. And we are, at the time of this recording, we are about a week and a half or so away from Commitment Sunday, in which every person that calls Legacy their home is being asked to make a commitment to Forward in Faith. So I would love for you to share with our audience about your journey when it comes to Forward in Faith and what this initiative means to you personally.
Yeah. Well, when I first heard about this campaign, I was pretty excited, because I feel like the church for so long has just been kind of stagnant. Like, we've been doing what's worked for us in the past, and that's not necessarily a bad thing, because once you find something that works, like, why wouldn't you keep doing it? But I just didn't see a lot of momentum in ways that maybe we should have been seeing momentum, like, growth and outreach to the community and stuff like that. So when I heard about this campaign, I personally was really stoked about it, because, being a Canton, attender, we need a building. And I was, excited to hear that there was this active step in, making that happen. And I know there's renovations that need to be here. So, and I understand, the building isn't everything about the campaign, but I think I said this to you like months ago. I felt like God has been waiting for us, and I say us, the church, to start playing offense when we've been playing defense for so long. Just trying to like keep things going. Like, we're just trying to keep our head above water when God's been waiting for us to take that step out into faith with Him and, say, here, God, like, what can you do with what we have?
Yeah.
And I've already seen that, like, kind of provision being provided, just with us even starting to plan like the campaign, like when I first, put it into motion.
Yeah.
And we're not even in the middle of the campaign yet, right? Like we are literally just kicking it off, and we haven't even had Commitment Sunday. I am so excited about Commitment Sunday. I think God's going to blow our minds.
How excited are you?
I
on
mean,
a scale of 1 to 10.
I want to say I'm a 10.
10 being the most excited.
I want to say I'm a 10. I mean, my gosh, like when you think about God and the fact that he wants to partner with us,
Yeah.
and then when we decide, yes, we want to partner with you too, like what is it he can't do, right?
Yeah.
Like there's
The
nothing
fact that he would
can't.
invite us to be
Yes.
part of something like this.
100%. And that's something like when we talk about these commitments, like God is not asking for our money because he needs our money to do his work. He's asking for our money. He's asking for our commitments. He's asking for just control because he wants to partner with us. He knows he's going to do something radically cool and he wants us to be a part of it.
Yeah.
So why wouldn't we scream yes
He
at
wants
that?
to show his favor. He wants to release
100%.
his favor on us. And part of that is us trusting him, saying,
Yes.
God, this is all yours anyway. This
Yeah.
is not ours.
Yeah, be like, I might be terrified. I might be scared. I might be nervous. I might be unsure. I don't know how this is going to work,
Yeah.
but anything from you isn't going to cause me to fail.
Yeah.
So bring it on.
Yeah. One of the things that's been important in this process is, we asked all of our leaders to make commitments in advance. And, because leaders go first, leadership is all about going first and kind of showing people the way, modeling generosity.
Yeah.
Talk about your personal journey and thinking about your personal commitment and, those conversations with, your spouse and your conversations with God. Like, what has that been like?
Can I share what happened on our
You cannot
advanced
share
commitment?
anything. This is a private. No. Yeah.
I can.
Sure. If you want to.
When we started to talk about the campaign and what that looked like in terms of what does making a commitment look like? Well, we're asking for financial commitments. And I remember going to my husband, and just to be like super raw on this podcast, me and AJ were not 10% tithers for a long time. Because and I don't want to make excuses, but we grew up in families that didn't tithe. So tithe was super new for us when we came to Legacy, and we started out small. We started giving, but it wasn't a full 10%, right? And through this campaign, I remember, talking to AJ, we had conversations like, I really think we need to get up to like 10%. I think it's a good goal. I think it's like a scary goal, but again, like anything that God calls us to, it's not going to make us fail. So anyways, we had the advanced commitment tonight, advanced commitment night. And I had told you, I was like, I don't know, like if we're ready to make a commitment, I was like, we need to pray more on it. And, you were super encouraging and said, listen, you don't need to make a commitment if you're not ready, but you need to be there as staff. And I was like, you know what, you're right. So anyways, we came to the night, not really expecting
You said I was, firm.
Yeah. But I appreciated that.
You needed to be there.
Yes. You made it very clear that
That's
I
right,
needed
very
to
clear.
be at advanced commitment Sunday, and I'm so glad I was there. So I appreciate you putting your foot down.
Putting the foot down. Yeah, that's right.
You called us to prayer at the end of the time together, and it was an invitation to talk to God about what our commitment might be and what God was trying to tell us. And I remember I looked at AJ and I said, all right, we're going to pray right now because we haven't prayed. I've prayed. I don't know if you've prayed, but I've prayed, but we haven't prayed together. Yeah. And I was like, and then we're going to tell each other our numbers, because you had shared with, with you and Megan's experience, you guys both had the same number.
Yeah.
Me and AJ have tried that in the past.
Which is not, I was surprised. Like, I was anticipating that we would have maybe different numbers and kind of, okay, maybe let's meet in the middle or.
Yeah. Well, there's an infinite amount of, not an infinite amount of possibilities, but you know what I mean? There's a lot of different numbers. And we and AJ had tried that before, and I mean, in no way, shape, or form did it work. So this time I was like, we're going to do this again, because I have no idea what we should do. I had a number on my heart for a few days. But I think it was my number. It wasn't necessarily from God. And so when I prayed during that time, I was like, okay, God, I've got a number. I know you know that I have a number in my head. If it's not from you, you need to make it super clear, because this is what I'm going to go with. And another number popped in my head, and it was higher than my number. And I said, okay, God. And now I'm like doubly confused.
Yeah.
But here's what we'll do.
Yeah.
AJ is going to give me his number. And if it matches either of those, that's what we'll do.
If it matches.
If it matches either of those, that's what we'll do.
Yeah. What if it was like $1 off?
Well, that's hard. I don't know.
Close enough.
But I told God, I said, if it matches either one, that's the number we'll go with.
Yeah.
And so I finished praying, and I looked at AJ, and I was like, all right, are you ready? And I was like, what's your number? And he gave me his number, and it was the higher one of the two. And I said, shut up.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it was just like, holy crap. And then I was like, oh, well, okay, God, I told you, like, I would do it. So we got a card and we made our commitment, and it brought us, I don't know if this is too personal to share, but you know what? We talked about how it's good to be open with people.
This podcast is totally unfiltered.
Love it. It brought us over tithing. We are now, like, our commitment brings us over 10%. And, I'm excited about it. I'm nervous. I'm like shaking in my boots a little bit, but it's from God.
Yeah.
So I'm excited. I'm like, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
You know? And the fact that my husband was the one that gave me the higher number, not to say that he's not a generous guy, but he's just not the one that typically is like, hey, Katie, how much money can we give to the church today? You know, like that conversation doesn't really happen.
Your voices that you use, the one for the older lady, and this one are great.
Thank you.
Should
I wanted.
Yeah, we're gonna record those and like something else.
It adds.
We're gonna use them. We're gonna use them.
I love it. But yeah, so like to see that growth in my husband too.
Yeah.
He's typically the one that reins me in on giving.
Yeah.
Not in a bad way. It's a balance, right?
Sure.
Like, he's not. He is always willing to give. It's just he balances me out.
Yeah.
But for him to be the one with the higher number,
some would say he's the more practical of the two.
Oh, for sure. For sure. I'm the dreamer, and he's the logistics. Like, how is that going to work?
So you need both.
Yeah.
You need both.
Yeah.
So I heard a pastor years ago say, when talking about tithing, you know, the people who live off 100% of their income, look at the people who live off 90%, and they think they're crazy.
Yeah.
And the people who live off 90% look at the people who live off 100%, and they think they're crazy.
Yeah.
So one of the things I always say is that when you decide to give God the first 10%, you know, then that means you have to steward the other 90% well. Mm-hmm. So what are those conversations like? Like, as you guys, I mean, this is only, a week ago?
Yeah.
But what are those conversations like where you're like, okay, we've made a commitment to give God the first 10%. Now, how are we going to steward the other 90%?
Yeah. And, you know, that's like, I don't even need AJ here for this.
I noticed you didn't come in with Starbucks. So it appears as though you're already
I am trying.
Taking steps.
I had coffee at home this morning. So
there you go. You go.
know, that's something that I'm working on. But yeah, you know, I don't even need AJ here because it's really going to be up to me. AJ doesn't spend money. So it like annoys me that, you know, I'm the one. No, but it's
I did play golf with them last week.
You did.
Just so the audience knows.
I mean, no, it's going to be a lot of our money. We like to eat out a lot. So that's going to be, you know, tapering that back.
Yeah, we do too.
I made homemade pizza last night. I did the dough and everything from scratch. Wow. And I cooked the pizzas on our Traeger grill. And it was really good. It was smoked pizza. It was delicious. You know,
I've made some homemade pizza on the Traeger.
Yeah.
So
did you have like the pizza oven for it? Or did you just do it?
No, I did it straight on the Traeger.
Okay, I had a cast iron like pizza pan that I cooked mine on.
Yeah.
Which worked out really well.
Did you make the dough too?
I did.
Okay.
Super good.
Now, so my method is I get the packet of fast rising yeast,
Okay. Like instant yeast?
instant yeast.
Yep.
Mix it in with the flour, the egg.
Oh, you don't put it in warm water first to like get it going?
No,
Interesting, because you know your yeast
I
could be
think that's
dead.
cheating. What you're talking about?
Well, but that you're making sure that your yeast is actually alive.
Oh, well,
If you don't put it in the water and it doesn't bubble,
well, what happens? My method is I
Mitchell's method.
put it in a bowl. Mitchell's method of
Pizza dough.
dough making. I put the flour, the egg, the fast rising yeast in the bowl, and then I cover it with little saran wrap,
Yeah, cellophane.
and I put it on top of the oven.
And you turn it on? Yes.
So it does warm up,
yeah.
and it expands.
Yeah. So I didn't put an egg in my dough. It was 5 ingredients: flour, water, oil, salt, and yeast.
Yeah, I forgot salt too, but yeah.
Yeah. And then I, made the dough, put my toppings on. I used fresh mozzarella too, not shredded. And it was delicious with some basil and garlic.
Oh, okay.
Super good. And then while the pizza was on the oven and like almost done, I brushed the crust with some butter and I sprinkled salt, pepper, and garlic powder on it. I don't want to say it ruined, Domino's or Papa John's for me, but it definitely I was like,
Well,
dang.
Domino's and Papa John. I mean, that's like the lowest of,
Oh, come on. It's not the lowest. No, Marco's is
especially
the lowest.
Papa John's. I would say Papa John's is the worst. Marco's is probably even with Domino's.
Ew. Marco's deserves to be under the toilet. That is how bad
I
low
hope no
Marco's
one
is.
watching is a Marco's employee or listening. Anyway, so you're having this conversation. It's always like, I think you talk about practical pieces of budgeting.
Yeah.
Like, do you have a budget? There's tools out there. And when you start budgeting, you realize, oh my goodness, we spend so much on, whatever category. For a lot of people, like you said, it is eating out.
Eating out and shopping. But shopping not in the sense of that me or AJ is going to the store and spending hundreds of dollars on new clothing or makeup or stuff like that. It's we've got a project going on in the backyard and we go to Home Depot and we spend $100 there, and then I don't know, we need some new appliance at Target, like our coffee maker just kicked the bucket. AJ needed a new one, so another 100. You know what I mean? It's stuff that you're not necessarily just buying because you want to buy. You're needing it, you're making improvements, but it adds up.
Yeah.
And you're like, holy cow,
Yeah.
next thing you know, you've blown your shopping budget.
The big thing too is emergency expenses. Most people
Yes.
live paycheck to paycheck, and they don't have, money for emergency expense, car repair, appliance breaks down, whatever it is. And so then you're getting into a little bit of trouble there.
Right.
But, so what, you talked about what this process has been like, in making a commitment. What are you hoping to see, or what are you hoping to see God do over the next 2 years? Not just in your life. Mm-hmm. Definitely in your life and your family, but in our church and through this initiative.
Well, for my life and my family's, it's going to be just, I'm excited to see how faithful he proves to us the next 2 years. I've always known God is faithful, but there's another level of faith when you're okay, here's my finances too.
Yeah.
I feel like people, when they dedicate their lives to God, or they say, yes, I'm a follower of God, they tend to separate finances from that, that's
Yeah. I have my spiritual life
category.
over here, then I have my
Yes.
financial life
Yeah,
over here.
and that was me, right? And AJ. So I'm excited to see our faith grow and dependency grow on him. I'm kind of hoping, maybe God will bless us with a promotion or two in the next 2 years. That'd be cool. Dan said when he
Promotions are good.
when he like stepped out onto that faith, he got a promotion 2 weeks later. So I got like a week left.
Yeah, that's
so
right. Yeah.
I'm hoping. But then for the church, I mean, I want to see our community outreach grow in the sense of people know who Legacy is. Like, I want Legacy to be known, oh, Legacy Church, they were at this event for the community last week. They were at this event. They were doing this for this. Like, I want us to be known because of our impact and our involvement in the community. Yeah. And with this Forward in Faith, initiative, it's going to allow us to do things that we want to do. Promise 686. Mm-hmm. I mean, it shocked me when you gave us the stats on Cherokee versus Gwinnett. Yes, Gwinnett has a lot of money, but like Cherokee is like a known, like, people make money in Cherokee, right? So, and Gwinnett, I'm not saying that Gwinnett is like not the same, but like I was just shocked that our community is what was it, a third the size of Gwinnett's?
Yeah, I think it's triple.
But we have the same amount in foster care.
Yeah.
And I loved how you were talking on Sunday about like what could we do? Like, what if we could have a big of impact that every single mother had, furniture for their home, or what could happen if every single foster child, like there was no need for foster care in Cherokee County because we made a big enough impact that, it wasn't needed. Every kid had a home. Like, those are the kind of things that people in reality would be like, that'll never happen. But we're not dealing with reality. We're dealing with God. Like, we're dealing with a God who, works miracles and does amazing things. Yeah. And so I think when you shoot high, like, I mean, those are like God-sized dreams. Yeah. And I think with this Forward in Faith initiative, we can start to see those God-sized dreams become a reality. And that's what I'm excited for.
It's not for us.
Yeah.
This initiative is not for us. Mm-hmm. It's for this community. Yeah. It's for the people that are not yet a part of our church that will be reached. Yeah. People that will come to know Christ through this initiative, through, just as people grow in their trust and in their faith. Like, a byproduct of that is they want to share that.
Right.
Yeah, they want others in their life to know and have the same hope that they have in Christ. So this is not for us. This is for the people, the families, the children that will be impacted, for hopefully years to come through this.
Yeah.
And so, our church is 35 years old now, and this initiative is really about entering the next 35-year phase, building a foundation for the next chapter in the life of our church. So as we wrap up here, unless you don't want to wrap up.
Just keep it going.
Unless you want to just keep it going. What is one thing that you would like to say to someone who, this whole Forward in Faith thing, maybe they're feeling stuck in their faith journey? What's one thing you would say to encourage them?
That is a really good question. I guess if I was like in that situation, I would want someone to encourage me to step out of my comfort zone, do something you've never done before, do something radical, and see if God won't catch you, right? And you say that, you don't, I don't know, but I think if you want something to change, like, you have to do something first to change it.
Yeah.
And I think a really good step would be putting a little more faith in God, because I'm so confident in something that comes from God is never going to cause you to fail. So if you're, giving sacrificially, if you're trying to make something good come out of your life, I think the best thing to do that is with God right next to you. And if you take an action, you take a step to get out of this like stagnant phase you're in.
Yeah.
It would be something, towards God, for God, asking God to do it with you.
Yeah.
But something radical that would just, I don't know, change your life.
Yeah. It's a trust test.
Yes.
I would say to someone who feels stuck, like, okay, what's one area of your life that you have not really handed over to God,
Yeah.
that you're still trying to hang on to, you're still trying to control?
Yeah.
And a lot of times it's an area that people are struggling in simultaneously. Not that we don't ever struggle even with things that we have turned over to the Lord.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of cause of struggle and stagnancy in our spiritual lives is because we're trying to control certain areas. And it's not just finances, but other, relationships, career, social, social relationships, things like that. So that's what I would ask the person is, hey, what's an area that you feel like you haven't really handed over to God, if you're completely honest with yourself? So.
Yeah. I've had several conversations with friends who have been struggling with things that I try to tell them, like, this is not your burden to be carrying. And we all do that, right? Like, we all put this stress on ourselves to try and control a certain aspect of our life, when if we would just hand it over to God, it would just, the stress would be gone. The struggles around it would start to alleviate. But like you said, we still struggle with things even when we do, like, God leads us through things. He doesn't, allow a perfect life, but he leads us through things. And when you're able to just kind of relinquish that control, man, your chest just feels a little lighter.
Yeah.
Even though it's scary.
Yeah.
But it's God, at the same time, it's scary, but it's exciting.
Cool.
You start to see how God works in your life. It almost becomes an addiction of, like, what else can you do? Here's another aspect of my life. It's like riding that high and that momentum.
Yeah, I don't think anyone wants their faith to be boring.
No.
But sometimes it really is, if we're not taking steps to move forward.
Yeah. Oh, 100%.
That's how you have a boring faith. Just stay right where you're at.
Or, you don't get to experience God's presence when you're just stagnant. Like, people can feel like God has left the room.
Yeah.
But really, it's just you're not moving, so you can't feel him moving with you.
Yeah.
That's good.
That's good. That's quotable.
If you're not moving, you can't feel God moving with you.
You can't feel God moving with you. Okay. Write that down. We'll put it in the notes.
Awesome.
Put it in the notes for the podcast. So how can people connect with you? Are you on the socials? What's your social handle?
I am not super active on social. I would rather people text me.
Well, you're on the Insta.
Kind of. I haven't posted in over 2 years.
Wow.
I am just not a social girly. I honestly hate social media.
So if people want to get in touch with you, how would they do that?
They can text me or email me.
You're going to give your phone number out on this podcast?
Should I give it out on this podcast?
I don't know. Why don't you just give your email?
All right. Katie@legacychurchga.com.
Okay.
I check it every day.
Katie@legacychurchga.com.
Yeah. And then once I vet you, you can get my phone number.
Right. Maybe we'll have some steps here.
Yeah. We'll have some preventative protection
Katie,
steps.
Thank you for taking time to chat. And we appreciate that.
Yeah. This has been great.
All right.
Cool.
Thanks for joining us.
Do.